They dropped a steel container right on top of my 150-year-old stone fence, not next to it, not near it on it. Then, 2 days later, I get a violation notice in my mailbox, claiming I was the one obstructing community development. No phone call, no knock on the door, just a printed letter signed by the HOA president herself, like I was some unruly squatter, not the actual landowner whose family had worked this ranch for generations. She figured I wouldn't fight back over a few inches of land. She figured wrong. Let me back up a sec. 6 months ago, I moved out here to Pine Hollow to take over my Uncle Ed's ranch. 40 acres of scrubland, weathered oak, and this old farmhouse with a soul. After 15 years running a bakery in Chicago, I was ready for quiet, for early mornings, homemade bread, sunrises that don't come with sirens. The place felt like time had paused around it. Even the fence that bordered the property had been dry stacked by hand back in the 1870s. It wasn't just rock. It was history. I didn't think much about the HOA when I got here. Signed the documents like everyone else does, part of the closing package, just another form. I figured, I pay my dues, mow my grass, no one bothers me. Yeah, that didn't age well. First red flag. A cold Monday morning. Coffee in hand, I step outside, expecting to see the same view I've always loved. Instead, I find a massive, gray steel container parked right across my fence line. Not beside it, directly on top of it. The thing looked like a military-grade shipping vault. 20 feet long, 8 feet tall, and ugly enough to kill the whole vibe of the ranch. And on top of that, it extended 18 inches into my property. I stood there, staring at it, thinking, this can't be real. Called the HOA office voicemail. So I drive down there and meet her in person. Victoria Granger, HOA president. Impeccable makeup, pin-straight blonde hair, pearl earrings, heels on dirt like she'd never walked outside the city. She greets me like I'm interrupting a spa day. Mr. Daniels, she says, flipping open a binder thicker than my tax returns. Your concerns have been noted. The container is part of our community improvement initiative. I tell her the container is literally on my fence. I show her photos. I tell her about the land grant, the boundary line, the heritage. She looks at me and says, we're talking about inches. Surely, a reasonable man wouldn't obstruct progress over sentiment. I said, that sentiment is 150 years old and holds up better than your HOA charter. She didn't flinch. Just closed the binder and smiled like she was already writing the next violation. That night, Mr. Kim, my neighbor, a retired botanist and the closest thing Pine Hollow has to a sage, brings me tea and says she doesn't understand what she stepped on. That fence is more than rock. It's your line. Turns out, he was more right than even he knew. We dug through Uncle Ed's old filing cabinets and hidden in a manila folder were the original 1873 land grant papers, handwritten surveys, and something I hadn't expected, water rights. I didn't just own the surface of those 40 acres. I owned the underground aquifer beneath them. That aquifer. It runs straight beneath the entire Sunnyfield HOA development. And their irrigation systems. Their fountains. Their green lawns in Arizona. All tapping into my water without permission. And that wasn't even the kicker. See, while looking up water usage records, I found that Victoria had registered a business, Granger Management LLC, to the same address as the HOA office. Turns out, she'd been charging the HOA and by extension, the residents for beautification services that her own company provided. Double dipping. Personal profit under the guise of community maintenance. But her arrogance wasn't just reckless, it was rehearsed. I could tell. This wasn't the first time she'd done something shady and smiled her way through it. The next week, Tom Briggs, one of the quieter HOA board members, knocked on my door with a folder that looked like it had been hidden for years. "I've had enough," he said. Inside. Invoices. Fake vendor payments. HOA funds rerouted through Granger's shell companies. Community money spent on tools, landscaping equipment, or borrowed from the HOA budget for her personal side gigs. And guess where it was all stored? That same steel container sitting on my fence. We checked, flew a drone overhead, got thermal images and camera footage, and there it was. Racks of gear. Paint, cement mixers, hedge trimmers, sealed bins with HOA labels. Community property being used for her private clients. On my land. That's when I knew this wasn't just about a fence anymore. This was fraud. Water theft. Embezzlement. So I did what I know best. I baked it slow, prepped it right, and got ready to deliver it hot. First came the fines. Of course. Suddenly I was in violation of overgrown weeds, unpermitted flower beds, even my garden lights. She filed complaints to my insurance company, reported me for zoning violations, tried to push me into foreclosure. Then came Sarah, an investigative reporter tipped off by someone on the board. She'd been tracking HOAs like this for months. And when she looked into Victoria, turns out, Victoria Granger didn't exist before 2017. Her real name was Veronica Wash. Disbarred in California for real estate fraud. She'd lost her license, her farm, her marriage started over here. I gave Sarah the folder from Tom. The drone footage. The land grant. The water rights. And the footage of Victoria directing a crew to clear out unnecessary historic eyesores, like the storm fence. Monday, 9 a.m., I sent one email, 47 pages of evidence, 12 minutes of video to the Arizona State Attorney General's office. By 9:15, the investigators were on site. By noon, the container was being hauled away. And by 2:30, Victoria or Veronica was in handcuffs, walking across the HOA parking lot with sunglasses on like that'd hide what she did. Turns out, you can rename yourself and rewrite a fake title, but you can't fake clean books. She's now serving 4 years for fraud, water theft, and misuse of public funds. Her business is gone. Our board resigned. And the fence. The county declared it a historic landmark, untouchable. That container. We turned it into a community oven. Easter. Kim bakes sesame rolls, I do sourdough. People line up on Sundays like it's church. But every time I walk past that fence, I still wonder, was it really about the inches? Or was it about not letting someone rewrite our story with a fake name and a clipboard? So here's my question to you: if someone came for what's yours, not all at once, but inch by inch, would you stand your ground? Tell me down in the comments, was justice served? Or is this just one battle in a war that keeps happening in neighborhoods across the country? Because in my book, the only thing worse than a thief is one who hides behind a smile and a set of rules they made up themselves.